Okay, so in ISTQB certification help Facebook group, Prince Party has asked one of the question, and in this video I'm going to give an explanation, and we will solve this question. Okay, so if you look, this question is on one of the learning objective from the chapter number 5, that is a test management, and the learning objective is K3 type, where you have to apply the knowledge of prioritization and technical and logical dependencies to schedule the test execution. So when you schedule a test execution, you should consider the priority of that particular test case. Okay, and those test cases with a higher priority, you should try to schedule those first. And when you are trying to schedule this, you should also consider, are there any dependencies? Okay, so if there are any dependencies, those dependencies will override the priorities. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what is this question. Okay, uh, so if we read, uh, so this there is a table. Okay, I will show it in the next image. Okay, so this is a table which we'll see once we read this question. Okay. So table 8.1 presents the set of regression test cases available to you. Okay. Recently, the software under test was modified to make uh, some performance improvements. Okay. So there are changes with respect to the performance. Okay. So there are changes with respect to the performance characteristics. Okay. Now your manager wants to perform the full regression testing restricted to the performance areas of the performance areas only. Okay, so you have decided that you will go for the regression testing which is related to the performance areas of the software. Okay, uh, only following following a descending priorities. Okay, so descending priorities means the highest priority test cases you should schedule first, and then the lowest will be latter. Okay, uh, so the question it is asking that which test case should be executed as the last one. Okay, so let's see this one. Let me move to the next image. Okay, so here first thing you should do is you should identify which are the high priority performance test cases. Okay, so I see this is a performance test case. Okay, uh, test case 2, which is high priority. Okay, and second is test case 3, which is also performance and which has also related to the high priority. Okay, so this also is related to performance and high priority. So this test case 2 and 3 we should try to execute first. Okay, so let me just write down, so this is a test case 2. Okay, and the test case 3. Okay, so this is what is standing on the top priority. Okay, so these we should execute as a first step. Okay, with the first highest priority. Okay, and if you see, there is another test case which is a performance test case, but a low priority. So this also we should try to cover. Okay, but this could be with a low priority. Okay, so it is a low priority, so it can be sorry. Okay, just let me highlight it so that you can see this. Okay, so this performance test case with a low priority, this also we should consider, we should execute. Okay, and others, if it is required, we will execute, but it is not in the scope because these are not in the which are not testing the performance characteristics. Okay, so there are dependencies. If you see this column, there are dependencies. So we cannot directly execute test case 2 and 3, right? So for to execute 3, there is a dependency on test case number 3. Okay, so to execute 2, you should execute the third test cases. Okay, so you should execute the third test case. To execute third test case, you should execute the test case number 5. because these are the dependencies. Okay, so what dependencies mean? So before executing test case 3, you should have executed test case 5. Before executing test case 2, you should have executed test case 3. Okay, so now let's see test case 3 and 5. Okay, and let's see what are the dependencies for them. Okay, so uh, yeah, so for 3, there is a dependency on 5. Okay, and for 5, there is a dependency on test case 1. Okay, so for 3, there is a dependency on 5. Okay, so I'll write it here. Okay, and for 5, there is a dependency on 1. Okay, and again you can go back and check what is the dependency for 5 and 1. Okay, so if we see 5, there is a dependency on 1. Okay, and if you go for 1, there is a dependency on 7. Okay, so you cannot execute directly 1. Okay, so you have to execute this test case 7 first. And now test case 7, okay, there is no dependency, so you can go ahead and execute. Okay, so you will start with the test case 7 first. Okay, so let me just write it here. So the test case 7 will be your first test case. Okay, and once you do test case 7, then you can do a test case 1. Okay, okay, so now once 1 is done, okay, so 1 is done, that means you can do 5 now. Okay, and then once 5 is done, then you can do 3 and then 2. Okay, so test case 5, and then you will do a test case 3. Okay, and then which one you should do after 3? You should do test case 2. Okay, now still test case 6 is not performed, right? So test case 6 is not performed still. So test case 6 also we should schedule. Okay, and for test case 6, dependency is 7 and 1. Okay, so 7 and 1 is already done. So we can have a test case 6 now. Okay, and then maybe so we have covered all the performance related test cases. Okay, so we have covered 3, we have covered 2, and we have covered 6. Okay, so the question was asking which is the last test case which you will execute. So your answer should be 6 here. Okay, so this is your answer. Okay, so this is what was the explanation. Okay, so if we can go back and see maybe one more time what was the question. So if you see test case 6, so the B should be the answer here. Okay, and since they are just asking about a performance testing, uh, one of the performance tests should be the answer. Okay, either 3, 2, or 6. Okay, so here there is no 7 or 4. Okay, so for sure, because these are not the performance related test cases. Okay, so either your answer should be 6 or 3.